This is now the second part of transcription. This is the usual disclaimer. So I will not go into this again. Now transcription, as far as bacteria is concerned, as far as prokaryotes are concerned, and I have been telling you that unless I specify, we will be primarily dealing with the bacterial processes. So bacterial transcription, for the sake of understanding, we can divide it into 3 steps. One is initiation, the second one is elongation, and the third one is termination. Okay, 3 steps for the sake of understanding, better understanding. We'll discuss it under these 3 headings. Now, obviously, initiation is the most difficult, most critical step. It's the most critical step because, as we say in English, well begun is half done. So, if the initiation has taken place properly, RNA polymerase has bound to the promoter regions properly, then half the work is done. Ashutosh, please switch off. Mute yourself. So initiation is most critical, most difficult step, and therefore it requires most attention also. Before I move further, let us briefly understand. Yesterday also, in yesterday's lecture, I told you a few things, that this is the start site. This is the start site here. And what we do, we refer it by 0. This is the start site. On this side of the start site are the genes which are to be transcribed, the structural genes. Okay. So this region on your right is the genes which are to be transcribed, and on this side usually the promoter is located. Promoter is located here. Okay, so we call this region upstream. Here onwards we'll keep calling this region many times. We'll be using this word many times, upstream sequences. And genes to be transcribed which are located on this region, that region is called as downstream. Okay, so you must very clearly be able to distinguish between what is meant by upstream and what is meant by downstream, right? And upstream we typically designate by a minus sign. So starting from -1, -2, -10, -25, -35, like this, as we move in this direction, it will be progressing. And downstream we designate by a plus sign, +1, +10, +20, +30, like this in this direction will move. So I hope, and this is the start site, basically transcription of the genes will start from here, will begin from here. Okay, RNA polymerase will bind here. This is the promoter region. Usually promoter is located upstream. So RNA polymerase will bind here, and as we have discussed yesterday also, this promoter region will have those consensus sequences located at -10 here and -35 here. Right? Now, there are 2 strands, double-stranded DNA. So, one of the strand shown here, this is called as coding strand. Coding strand. It is also referred to as plus strand, or it is also called as sense strand. Okay. And the other strand, shown over here, the lower one, it is called as template strand of the DNA. It is also called as minor strand or antisense strand. Okay. The newly synthesized RNA, the one which is being synthesized, will be complementary to the template strand. It will be complementary to the template strand. The newly synthesized RNA will be complementary to the template strand, and it will be identical to the coding strand. It will be similar, identical to the coding strand. So you all must understand this very clearly. Okay, what is meant by coding strand, what is meant by template strand, what is meant by upstream sequences, what is meant by downstream sequences. Okay, and how do we designate upstream sequences? By a sign minus. ये minus sign से हम उसको designate करेंगे. Downstream sequences will be designated with the help of a plus sign. Okay, so very often we'll be using these words, upstream sequences and downstream sequences. So therefore I made this picture clear to you in the beginning itself. All right. So now how does it begin? Let us try and understand initiation, how does it take place? So it begins with the binding of RNA polymerase to the promoter region, So RNA polymerase must bind to the promoter region so that transcription can begin. And as I just told you, that promoters are generally located upstream. So now you understand what is meant by upstream. They are located upstream the structural genes. Structural genes are generally located downstream from the start site, and promoter is located upstream from the start site. Now it is the sigma factor which plays very critical, very crucial role. It helps RNA polymerase recognize the promoter region. And promoter regions, as we also learned yesterday, that they are characterized by the presence of two consensus sequences. And what are those two consensus sequences? There is one at -10, and the sequence is this. I told you yesterday also, and I am telling you today also, that you must memorize these sequences. And there is another one, as far as bacteria is concerned, there is another one located centered at -35, and that sequence is TTGACA. So these are the characteristic features of the promoters, which make them different than the rest of the DNA. Okay, strong promoters. These are the promoters where initiation of transcription, the frequency of initiation transcription is very high. Typically, almost every 10 seconds in E. coli, the transcription can begin from these strong promoters. And what is meant by strong promoters? Now you understand that strong promoters are those promoters where these consensus sequences are there present as it is. There is no deviation. So those promoters are called as strong promoters. And there are weak promoters where there is too much of deviation from these standard sequence. There is too much of substitution in the nucleotides. Then the promoter becomes weak promoter, and the frequency of initiation of transcription is much less from weak promoters. I told you yesterday also, it may be as high as 10 minutes where compared to every 10 seconds from strong promoter. So that is the difference, that is the significance of having a consensus sequence, standard consensus sequence at -10 and -35 upstream, -35 location upstream. Okay, sigma factor how does it help RNA polymerase identify the promoter? Yesterday also we discussed that it does it by reducing the affinity of RNA pol for the general regions by a factor of 10 to the power 4. So by having sigma factor in RNA polymerase doesn't bind to the general region, its affinity for the general region becomes less, and less by a massive 10,000 fold. Now RNA polymerase holoenzyme binds to the double-stranded DNA and searches the promoter region by forming hydrogen bonds. How does it do it? Yesterday also I just made a reference to it. It binds to the double-stranded DNA here. I have shown it here. RNA polymerase is bound, and this binding takes place by interacting by forming hydrogen bonds with the hydrogen donor and hydrogen acceptor groups of the exposed DNA site. Whatever hydrogen donor and hydrogen acceptor groups are there in the DNA, this RNA polymerase will bind these weak hydrogen bonds with the hydrogen donor, proton donor and proton acceptor groups of the DNA. Proton donor and proton acceptor groups of the DNA. And it does it by rapidly sliding along the dsDNA. It slides. I tried to show it over here with the help of this arrow. There could have been another model. Yesterday also we discussed that it could have chosen another model, another way, that it will bind to the DNA, scan whether it is a promoter or not promoter. If it is not a promoter, it will leave, then bind to the next region here like this, then bind to the next region like this. But it would have taken a lot of time. So instead of that, what nature has done, nature has provided this mechanism, that this is a probable mechanism that RNA polymerase will bind to dsDNA. The binding takes place by interaction with the proton donor and proton acceptor groups of the exposed DNA groups, right? And it slides across the double-stranded DNA in 2 dimensions. And as soon as it encounters this -10, -35 sequences, it will stop. Okay. So, by sliding across the double-stranded DNA, it scans the DNA, large portion of the DNA very rapidly, and is able to recognize the promoter very quickly. Another feature that nature has provided is this. It recognizes the consensus sequences, this -10 and -10 and -35 consensus sequences of the promoter without unwinding. This is important. Without unwinding. It can identify these consensus sequences even when the DNA remains in the double-stranded form. It doesn't require the DNA, the double-stranded DNA, to become single-stranded and then only it will be able to identify. That is not the case. It identifies it even when these sequences are there in the dsDNA. That is one important feature, and that is how things can be done very rapidly. And once the promoter has been identified, okay, and the RNA polymerase comes and sits over here, right, then the sigma factor leaves the complex, because it is necessary. Sigma factor must leave the complex, because with sigma factor, the affinity of the RNA polymerase for the general region is very less. So unless the sigma factor leaves, RNA polymerase will not be able to bind to the general region. So once RNA polymerase comes and sits over here on the promoter, once the promoter has been successfully identified, then the job of sigma factor is over. It leaves the complex. What remains is a core enzyme. Core enzyme, because it lacks sigma factor, it has 10 to the power 4 times higher affinity for the general regions of the DNA. Because beyond the promoter, what is there? The general regions are there. This is the start site here, let's say. So this is the general region now. So RNA polymerase divide of sigma factor will have more affinity for the general regions, because now it is the general region which will be interacting with the RNA polymerase. So this is the start point, let's say. Okay. So from here onward, these are general regions. On this side there was promoter. So naturally we wanted more affinity for the promoter regions. So once the promoter has been identified, RNA polymerase is bound, then RNA polymerase will leave the sigma factor will leave the complex, and what remains is core enzyme. Core enzyme will have more affinity for the general regions. Now, what does bound RNA polymerase at the promoter do? So this bound RNA polymerase at the promoter is responsible for, it unwinds approximately 17 base pair of double-stranded DNA. So it is the situation, original situation is this. RNA polymerase is bound to the promoter region. What does it do? Once it binds to the promoter region, it unwinds about 17 base pair of the DNA, double-stranded DNA. So RNA polymerase is bound to double-stranded DNA. This is double-stranded DNA. It is now appropriately, what you can say, positioned at the promoter. And once it has been positioned at the promoter, it unwinds about 17 base pair of the double-stranded DNA. It starts unwinding 17 base pair of the double-stranded DNA. Negative supercoiling. And therefore, I have been telling all along that these lectures are interconnected. If you have understood the previous lecture, then you will understand negative supercoiling, naturally occurring DNA remains in the negatively supercoiled form. And it remains optimally negatively supercoiled. Excessive negative supercoiling is also not good, and less than optimum negative supercoiling is also not good. So it remains in optimal negatively supercoiled form, and that negative supercoiling, it facilitates unwinding. Negative supercoiling facilitates unwinding at all the promoters. This unwinding of 17 base pair, it is facilitated by negative supercoiling of the DNA at all the promoters except, important, except for the promoter of DNA gyrase. DNA gyrase gene, this gene, whatever promoter it comes under, that promoter, their negative supercoiling does not facilitate unwinding. And which enzyme introduces negative supercoils? DNA gyrase. It is also called as DNA topoisomerase 2. DNA gyrase or DNA topoisomerase 2 is responsible for introducing negative supercoils in the DNA. And its promoter, or from its promoter, negative supercoiling does not facilitate unwinding. Negative supercoiling facilitates unwinding at all promoters except the promoter of DNA gyrase gene. So what is the reason? Because it helps maintain the DNA in an optimally supercoiled form. So it is a good example of what is called as feedback control. So if it gets excessively negatively supercoiled, so what is going to happen? RNA polymerase will not be able to bind to DNA gyrase because negative supercoiling does not facilitate binding at the promoter of the DNA gyrase gene. So DNA gyrase synthesis will stop. No more further synthesis of DNA gyrase and no more further introduction of negative supercoils in the DNA because DNA is already excessively negatively supercoiled. So to prevent that excessive negative supercoiling of the DNA, this feedback control mechanism nature has introduced. So nature has done such small beautiful things. So many places you will find in biological system that nature has done these kinds of small tricks. So the system remains under self-control. So please understand, I am repeating it once again. Negative supercoiling are introduced by DNA gyrase. They are also called as DNA topoisomerase 2. Negative supercoiling facilitates unwinding. We discussed earlier also that wherever all the processes, wherever DNA unwinding is required, negative supercoil facilitates unwinding, be it replication, be it transcription, be it recombination. Okay, so negative supercoiling facilitates unwinding at all promoters except the promoter for the gyrase gene itself. There it has got an opposite effect. Negative supercoiling at the promoter of the gyrase gene doesn't facilitate unwinding. RNA polymerase will find it difficult if the DNA is excessively supercoiled. Okay, so excellent feedback mechanism nature has introduced so that DNA all the time can be maintained optimally negatively supercoiled. Okay, so when unwinding of DNA has taken place about 17 base pair, what we call it as transition from the closed system, closed promoter complex, to open complex. Open promoter complex is the key event of the initiation. So this is the closed system. This is the closed system. And once, unwinding has taken place, it becomes like this. The two strands have unwound. This is one strand. This is what is called as coding strand. And the one in red is the template strand. About 17 base pair of DNA has been unwound. Okay. So this is the DNA double helix. The two strands are separated about 17 base pair, and the one in yellow is the DNA polymerase. So this is called as closed system, and this is called as an open system. So shifting from a closed promoter complex to open promoter complex is the key event. The stage is now set for the first phosphodiester bond formation. So what are the events if you go stepwise? First is RNA polymerase must identify the promoter. Okay, not only it must identify the promoter, it should be properly positioned over there. So now the RNA polymerase is properly positioned here at the promoter. It has identified the promoter and it is properly positioned over there. The next step it does is, it unwinds 17 base pair of DNA. 17 base pair of DNA has been unwound. So the system, this closed promoter complex has now become an open promoter complex, and this is the key event. And as I said earlier, I think I'll be running out of time. So wherever the meeting ends abruptly, don't bother, we'll continue beyond that. Sigma factor, as I said earlier, we'll leave the complex. Sigma factor, the job is over, sigma factor leaves the complex, because the job of the sigma factor was to help RNA polymerase identify the promoter. So you must understand this point, negative supercoiling and DNA gyrase. Okay, this is under negative feedback loop because it helps maintain the DNA optimally negatively supercoiled. Excessive negative supercoiling will not be helpful either, nor less than optimal negative supercoiling. So DNA, naturally occurring DNA, is all the time maintained optimally negatively supercoiled. Now the next step is elongation. So events from first phosphodiester bond formation to the last phosphodiester bond formation, all those steps come under elongation step. So sigma factor has already left the complex, as we discussed. Core enzyme, as I have been telling all along, this core enzyme has now more affinity for the general regions of the DNA. Please remember all the time that the direction of RNA synthesis, direction of transcription or RNA synthesis, like DNA synthesis, like DNA replication, is always without exception from 5' to 3'. Direction of RNA synthesis, direction of transcription is always, please remember, without exception, always 5' to 3'. Another important feature is RNA pol doesn't require primer. DNA polymerase required a primer. RNA pol, they don't require a primer. They can initiate transcription on their own. So there is no need of a primer. In bacteria, we are talking about bacterial system only. The first nucleotide to be incorporated is always either a guanosine triphosphate, PPPG, guanosine triphosphate, or adenosine triphosphate, PPPA. The first nucleotide to be, this is the 5' end. This is the 5' end. Okay, because the RNA will grow from 5' to 3'. Always 5' to 3'. So this is the 5' end, PPPG, or it can be either PPPA. This is the 5' end. So it always starts with G or A. The region containing RNA polymerase, DNA template, one of the two strands act as template, and the nascent, nascent means newly synthesized. Newly synthesized RNA chain is called as transcription bubble. The region which contains these three, RNA pol, DNA template, and an RNA-DNA hybrid, means DNA template and bound to it or wound to it is a newly synthesized RNA chain. Okay, that region is called as transcription bubble. I think I have shown it here in the next. This is transcription bubble. So you can see about 17 base pair of DNA has been unwound. This is 17 base pair. The one in yellow is RNA polymerase. Okay, the one in red is DNA template. The one in green is the RNA, newly synthesized RNA, and this newly synthesized RNA forms a temporary hybrid, a duplex, about 12 base pair in length, RNA-DNA hybrid. RNA-DNA hybrid, about 12 base pair in length, and this is the 5' end and the direction of RNA synthesis is from 5 prime to 3 prime. This is the point where new nucleotides will be added. This is the 3 prime end where the new nucleotides will be added. Okay, so every time a new nucleotide is added, it is oriented in such a way that it comes properly oriented at the 3-hydroxyl group of the last nucleotide. Okay, so if for that reason, if it needs to be moved, it moves in a circular motion. So this RNA DNA duplex will also move if needed, so that the incoming nucleotide, is properly oriented at the 3' hydroxyl, free 3-hydroxyl group of the last nucleotide of the RNA. The chain will grow in this direction. This is the point, this is the front end where DNA is getting unwound. DNA is getting unwound. And this is at the rear end, the DNA is getting rewound. It is here, it is unwinding, and here it is rewinding. And the rate of unwinding and rate of rewinding is same. Therefore, at any given point of time, we will have only 17 base pair of DNA unwound, because at the rate at which it is unwound at the front end, at the same rate it is being rewound at the rear end. So at any given point of time, you will have this transcription bubble, this picture constant. 17 base pair DNA, 12 base pair of RNA DNA hybrid. So RNA pol, it does not have proofreading activity. Please understand, like DNA polymerase, it doesn't have a proofreading activity, and therefore the fidelity of the process, chances of having mistakes in the process are relatively more. Chances of mistake taking place during RNA synthesis are going to be more. Okay, it is not as precise as DNA synthesis, and you can afford, because RNA is a photocopy of DNA. If there are mistakes in RNA, it can be torn off and you can always synthesize a fresh copy. RNA pol catalyzes bond formation at the 3 free hydroxyl group, and between the free 3 hydroxyl group and 5' phosphate group of the incoming ribonucleotide. Phosphodiester bond formation will take place between the free hydroxyl group at the 3' end and 5' phosphate group of the incoming ribonucleotide. Right? Then the type of incoming ribonucleotide, RNP, ribonucleotide phosphate, is decided by the nucleotide present on the template strand. Which ribonucleotide will come? It will be decided by what deoxyribonucleotide is present on the template strand. I tried to show it over here. So this is the last RNP in the growing DNA chain. The chain is growing in this direction. This is the 3-hydroxyl group, free 3-hydroxyl group. So a YTP is now brought in, because on the template strand, template DNA, you have Y'. So a YTP, ribonucleotide YTP will be brought in and it will be added. This is the 3,5 phosphodiester bond, and nucleotide Y has been added. Okay. The next nucleotide to be added is ZTP, because on the template strand you have a Z'. So on the template you have Z'. So naturally a Z ribonucleotide will be brought in by RNA polymerase and it will be incorporated. So this was the first phosphodiester bond. This is the second phosphodiester bond. So Z has also been incorporated. The chain will grow in this direction this way. So you have a 3-hydroxyl group here. 3-hydroxyl group is available over here. Okay. So the next nucleotide will be incorporated based on what nucleotide is there on the DNA template. So the chain will grow in this direction. Meeting is going to end abruptly in about a minute's time. So I think we'll stop over here. and we'll continue from this point beyond in my next lecture. What remains is the termination. Termination of the three processes: initiation, elongation, and termination. 3 steps. Termination is probably the least understood. But whatever knowledge we have about termination, that also we'll discuss in the next lecture.